Day 5 of the 36th edition of the America's Cup. Oh my gosh, my head hurts. Wow. I think my heart rate hit about 140 beats a minute today. 2 race wins to Emirates Team New Zealand. And all of a sudden, it could come down to championship point tomorrow. My name's Nick Douglas. This is your AC Chat and Rap Show. So great to be with you live and recap the racing that was today. Who said that whoever wins the start will win the race? Who said that there were no passing lanes? And who said that there would be no lead changes? We saw all of the above today, as if somebody ordered it. So if you were overly excited by the racing today, just like I was, it's our fault for wishing for it. We've got to take that on the chin. But really, I mean, as sailors, we've all been in that situation where we didn't really know what was going to happen next. It's been light, we've not been able to get our boat moving, and somebody has sailed up to you or past you, and maybe it's been reversed as well. So I think we all felt for everyone out there on the water today. It was incredibly tough, but this is the America's Cup, and this isn't a competition for the faint-hearted, so to speak. So let's get straight into it. We're going to make it quick, unlike the racing today. Wow. I felt like today was just the longest day as well. It was just continual. It just kept going. So let's get into it a little bit. Plenty of action and fight in the village. Massive crowds for a Monday. And an incredible spectator fleet yet again. So brilliant. And I have so much footage coming through from so many of you guys who are out there. So thank you for sharing that with me. I didn't have time to process it all today because we've got so much happening with all the content that we're covering. But I do have a special video from Sue Bunce that I'll show you a bit later. With them on the way back in. But let's get into race 7, which was the first race today. Fairly even start. Large gauge to windward. Almost a reverse of race 1 with a luff from Emirates Team New Zealand to leeward. We saw Emirates Team New Zealand take a left-hand turn at the bottom gate. They managed to pass with a little right-hand shift and led to
almost got them off the start.
Finish.
I'm not sure how.
Almost got them off the start. They actually thought that start was pretty close. I think Pete thought that luff was a lot closer than it might have been when he looked back at it, because it looked to me to be very similar to race 1. And that, I mean, there's basically 2 even start scenarios that I've spoken about with you guys before. The larger gauge with the windward boat, they're able to then tack into that position on port, or if it's a tighter gauge, they get flicked early. So we saw the latter, or the first of those 2 with the larger gauge in race 7. That was great. That was really fun. Anyway, I love the starts, but Luna Rossa win the start. They don't win the race. They get past, and Emirates Team New Zealand sailed beautifully. It looked to me that, we know that Emirates Team New Zealand had up a J3 and Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli had up a 1.5. So there was a big differential in the jibs there. And perhaps they may have gone for a smaller sail in hindsight, but we'll have a look at that with the interviews when we review that. So, race 8. Another fairly even start, reverse though, with Luna Rossa to leeward and tight, with the less gauge, as I said, to leeward and tight. They managed to flick Emirates Team New Zealand around and onto the run. We saw Emirates try to jibe in what we think was Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli's bad air, and they fell off the foils. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli sailed away.
Massive cavitation there, boys, on that one.
Did you hear Jimmy there say, I think I've got some cavitation there, boys, on that one. In the last tack into the top mark, and then they fell off the foil. And in what I think many people had written off to Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, Emirates Team New Zealand fought to come back from behind and take a second win. And now they are 2 wins away from winning the 36th edition of the America's Cup. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli are 4 wins away from a potential win. 2 more races tomorrow. We'll have a little bit of a look at the weather in a minute. It looks very similar to yesterday. Anyway, let's hear from, I think, Blair Tuke to start with. He's the wing trimmer from Emirates Team New Zealand on their 2 wins today.
Yeah, thank you very much. We're really proud with the performance and the results especially. It was a big day for us, and especially the second race, the way it developed and the breeze dropped so much more than what we had sort of as we pulled up the jib. We knew it was going to be a big one, and we sailed nicely in the first beat, given where we were off the start. We're right in there at the top mark, started making gains, and then obviously there was that critical error we made there. But you bounce back, and you always know if you fall off, there might be a chance that they do, and they did it, and we didn't sort of look back. Well, we never give up. You always just got to play what's in front of you and do the best you can. So when we fell off the foils, we were obviously gutted, but quickly you just concentrate on what you got ahead, looking for the pressure to take back off in, and we did that, and then just tried to get around the racetrack as quick as we can. Once we got ahead again, then we're sort of a little bit more into I guess just making sure we stay on the foils at that stage. So you'll see in our tracks are a little bit wider than what they might normally be, but we're sort of, just trying to give ourselves the best opportunity we could in the manoeuvres, and we're comfortable with how the boat's going and those stuff. We put a lot of work into it to keep the boat sort of going through the manoeuvres and the real bottom end, and I think we proved that the boat's going well on that stuff.
We saw more emotion at the end of race 2 than we've ever seen before coming off your boat. I mean, how big a relief was it to break the deadlock? Describe the emotion on board and how important it was to do that.
I think some of the emotion from the grinding boys might have been just how tired they were. That was a big one for them, the deepest they've gone for sure. So it takes a huge effort to get the boat around the racetrack like that, and really proud of the whole group. But pretty quickly we come back in here and regroup and try and learn as much as we can, and sort of look forward to tomorrow and the next 2 races in front of us.
Yep, 2 races in front of them. 2 wins are left to get their hands back on the cup as the defenders. So I had a question from Susan Platt, and Pete Helwig's helped me to answer it. So it's when the boat to leeward actually tries to come up and touch the windward boat, so to speak. So in race 1, we saw, I'll turn this way. In race 1, we had Luna Rossa to leeward, just here. I'm doing some bar karate. We had Luna Rossa here and Emirates Team New Zealand here, and we saw Luna Rossa go to try and come up to them, and then it was a no penalty. And then today we saw the reverse. We had Emirates Team New Zealand here in race 7 and Luna Rossa here, and they tried to come up because the windward boat has to keep clear. Rule 11. So Rule 10 is port and starboard, and Rule 11 is the windward boat must keep clear. So that's what a luff is, just to explain that to you so that you know. And moving on from that, let's have a little bit of a listen to Kiko and his words from today. And you'll hear here about that jib choice and whether they would change that in hindsight.
Not so much problems. I think we could have had a smaller jib probably on the first race. I think that the decision at that moment was correct. When we sailed on the start and on the first upwind, I think the jib was the correct one. We were right in between the crossover, but the rest of the race was a little windier, and maybe we can improve there. And there are many things, many areas where I'm sure the coaches are going to tell us, oh, you could you could gain you can gain a couple of percentages and on your VMG, and like every day we are improving. So I think yeah, there's still a positive vibe in the team, and we have to use it. Well, it was a tough day for sure. To digest, especially the second race, is hard. But there is no time to think about what happened score-wise. We have to look at the mistakes. We just have to look deep into the mistakes we did and try to improve for the next day. There is really no time for anything else.
The Kiwis are now in a position that they could finish this off in a day. I mean, how much do you believe that Luna Rossa is still in the game?
I believe it a lot. I'm 100% sure that we are still in the game. If there is one thing I learned from Jimmy Spitil is fight until the end, and I learned that, and definitely I don't need to teach him. I tell you, it was a fantastic atmosphere in the team, in the shed when we came back. Everybody had the fire in the eyes, and we don't have to change anything of what we have been doing on the debriefing and the learning. I think so far this team has been working very well, and we have to keep doing the same. They are catchable. Otherwise we couldn't win any race. I think we have the possibility to beat them. We proved it. We could have easily won the second race. We made a couple of basic mistakes on that track, and yeah, I mean, I think they are beatable, and we will prove it. Well, it's definitely not the best day of my life, but it's fine. I mean, I have a great team behind me, and they're all pushing on the same direction. So I could not be any happier, really.
Yes, they are a very strong team unit, that one. There were lots of comments in the press conference today about how they're basically like family. So that was quite cute. Not to discount the relationship between Blair Tuke and Pete. They're obviously best mates, and they live on each other's hip half their life, basically, with the amount of sailing they do together from the 49er to the America's Cups. So they're definitely a very strong unit as well. Does that experience and them sailing together come into it? More than likely. They're very yin and yang as well. You know, Tuke is very out there and passionate, and Burling is just such a clinical machine. So they're very much like the mix of Kiko and Jimmy. So it's interesting to see from that point of view. And really, really fun today to watch how the psychology is unfolding as well. This is arguably one of the toughest cups in terms of new technology and psychology at the same time, just because they're still learning. Not to say that there haven't been tougher cups in the past, but let's have a little bit of a listen to Pete Burling now about his day, his views, and what they're going to do tomorrow.
Yeah, I think, you know, today was a pretty tricky day. You know, we felt like we kind of executed our plan pretty well in the starts, but didn't quite swing our way in the final details. But I think they were close enough that it really meant that the race wasn't over. So to be able to fight back and get a pass in that first one. And then in the second one, obviously, it was very close, and we fell off our foils and gave them a huge jump, you know, and you know, we were just trying to get back foiling again and give ourselves an opportunity if they made a mistake. And we were definitely, you know, pretty lucky that they made a mistake in that last one, but, you know, you take what you can get in these kind of events. Well, we feel like we're learning and improving the whole time. You know, whether we win or lose the race, we feel like every race we come out with, you know, 5 or 6 things that are massive learnings from the race. You know, we've got an amazing group in there that's going over every inch of our boat, looking for little details to improve it, every inch of, you know, how we're sailing it, you know, the amount of data that comes off the boat every day you sail. You know, it's pretty easy to see where you've made little mistakes and where you can improve and where you can get better. And, you know, we're definitely far from the pointy end of where these boats will get. So, you know, we're just really concentrating on and keeping our learning curve as steep as we can, and we know we've got to win a last race to win the America's Cup, and that's what we're here to do. I think.
Yeah, they're there to win the last race. That's what it's all about. And will that end tomorrow, or will we see another day? I thought that it would go one each way again today. And our weather guy thought that Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli would win 2. And Tua, our sailor girl on the ground in Auckland, she called 2 for Emirates Team New Zealand. So she wins the prize. I better say that too, just up front. We got one interview to go. If you have just joined us, it's lovely to have you with us. We ran through the racing footage a little earlier. So if you want to have a look back once we are finished live, I encourage you to do so. I did pull apart that second race a little bit by pausing and just having a bit of a chat in between. But as you just heard from Burling there, essentially there was an opportunity to pass in the first race, which they took after Luna Rossa won the start. In the second race, there was an opportunity to pass, and they fell off their foils with the jibe, and it took them a little while to get back up and going. Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli fell off their foils in attack due to not enough pressure. We're not sure. It sounded like they cavitated as well in that tack. And Emirates Team New Zealand went on to win in a great display of not giving up, even if you're a long way behind. They were 2 nautical miles behind at one point and doing negative VMG to try and get back up on the foils, which was incredible. I commented and said that basically they had to go upwind again to try and get their boat foiling, because otherwise it's like trying to take off with the wind behind you, so to speak. So, yeah, basically impossible. So thanks again to everybody for joining. Let's check out the interview with Jimmy. Then we're going to wrap it all up so we can get some rest before tomorrow, which could be the last day, or we'll see. We'll talk about the weather just after this.
I'd summarise our position, and we've still got a great shot at winning. I mean, today we came in all square. I thought we did a few things quite well. We got off the line well. We got the first cross twice. And there was a few things in the first race we would have, liked to have done a bit different. The second race, I mean, look, it was just one of those races where both boats had, some tough moments, and we saw huge lead changes. I mean, just minutes ahead, one and then the other. So it was just a bit of a dynamic situation. And look, we'll still go through that race and try and learn as much as we can, because tomorrow is actually looking quite light. Yeah, I mean, the overview is we're in this. We can win races. All we need to focus on tomorrow is going out and winning the first one, and then we'll take it from there. I'm confident this team can do it. I mean, we've come through the round robin series the hard way. I mean, everyone pretty much wrote us off on the Prada Cup and came through, and we only dropped one race from the semis on. Everyone was talking up the Kiwis, talking about a whitewash, and, it was going to be 7-0. So, yeah, if you ask a whole lot of people out here, they may have a different answer to me, but my answer is I take confidence in my teammates. Everyone at Team Luna Rossa believes we can win this, and we'll certainly be going out tomorrow with the gloves off and ready to fight. Oh, the mood's upbeat. There's no one with their heads down, walking around. Everyone is just kind of just hungry and enthusiastic, and they just want to fight. They just want to get out there tomorrow and get a win on the board and bounce back. And we've shown we can do that, and I've got no doubt we can do it.
Yep, he has no doubt they can do it, and he's going to go give it another shot. The king of comebacks, Jimmy Spithill. Can he pull this one off with his amazing Italian Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli team, or will Emirates Team New Zealand, the defenders, go and do the job tomorrow? It's so interesting watching how this is unfolding, and until today we've had it play for play for play for play. So today was definitely a different development, but both teams can win the start. Both teams are fast in their own conditions. Far out. I felt like if Luna Rossa had won that second race, their weatherman might have gotten a bonus because they kept that 1.5 up even when it didn't work for them in the first race. So it just shows you how quickly things can turn around and how perfectly they've got to get their settings and their tech and their psych to all work together. It's a massive system, infrastructure, organism. it's so interesting. It's intriguing, really, to see how they're making it all work. And when they make a mistake, they're gone because the other team is sailing next to perfectly as well. So, yeah, until today, when we actually saw that they're infallible. What's that saying? No sailor is infallible and the weather is unpredictable. Thank you, Paul Elstrom. That's one of my favorites, actually. So, tomorrow, what is the weather doing? I think we will have a little bit of a look for you. I'm just going to try and get it up for you. And if we were looking at the weather now, this is what it would look like. We're talking about course C or E tomorrow because it will be from this very interesting direction, south-southwest potentially. This on the left-hand picture, they've got it at 1 knot at 1600 hours. On the right-hand picture, 4 knots. So that's not looking so positive right now for racing, but as we all know, forecasts can change overnight, so you can't take my word for it, that's for sure. But we will address the weather in the morning and see what is going. So I've got a question here from David Cawthorne. Hey, Nick, can I throw a question in about the broadcasting? They seem to have the VMG up most of the time, not the boat speed. So the broadcast are using VMG, which is how basically the track that the boat is making to the mark, how positive that is. And so especially today, that was relevant when the boats were off the foils because sometimes they were going backwards to try and get up on the foils. So, and when they're next to each other and we'll say you've got two boats doing the same speed, this one's doing 15 knots and this one's doing 15 knots, but they're pointing more directly to the mark, or so either lower or higher, depending on which mode they're in. If they're going upwind and they're pointing higher, and so they're higher, same speed, their VMG is better. So that's why they're looking at VMG as well as speed, because it can be a more accurate measure of who's sailing their boat more efficiently. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Anyway, so that's the weather. To wrap up the show tonight, we've had many party boat spottings today, and they definitely had a good one today with 2 wins. So a big thanks to Sue Bunce for this video. She also captured them this morning getting ready to dock off. I think that stereo has won the prize for the most efficient technology in Auckland right now. It is so loud. Most of the videos that you see coming from the viaduct, if you can hear music, it's coming off that boat. It is absolutely crazy. The Kiwis are definitely loving their cup, and it's great to see, as we've heard at the press conferences today and also 2 days ago. We've got to remember that at the America's Cup, with this racing that's happening that's so close, it's a massive privilege for them to be out on the water having a great time when the world has had the year that it's had. So let's all enjoy that as well. And tomorrow, the intensity will continue. Will tomorrow be the day that Emirates Team New Zealand defend the 36th America's Cup? Or will we see Luna Rossa, Prada Pirelli fight back? Or will there be no racing again? There are probably three main scenarios tomorrow. We see Luna Rossa fight back and the day finishes 5-5. We see them take 1 each and it goes to 6-4. Or we see Emirates Team New Zealand finish it off. And of course, the fourth scenario is that there's no racing or one race. So if there's delays or a postponement or an abandonment. Racing will be on at 16:12 local time. There can be no racing after 1800 hours. We will be live in the morning with your forecast and your course area and everything that you can expect for tomorrow. Looking forward to it. In the meantime, make sure you tell a friend about the America's Cup. That's going to be the mission. In the next 24 hours, I want you to tell a friend that's a non-sailor about the America's Cup and how cool it is and how great our sport is. Go be an ambassador for sailing. Have a great night. My name is Nick Douglas for Adventures of a Sailor Girl. Lovely to have you with us. I'll see you in the morning. Bye, everybody.